Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto was the last Saiyan? The Knucklehead's Harem of Warriors Part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Prologue. Planet Vegeta. King Vegeta, we have a serious problem. A scientist with a tail wrapped around his waist said, barging in frantically knocking the door down as the king himself stood up. Showing he also had a tail wrapped around his waist as well, seeing the lead scientist and his best friend Minato come running in before bowing. Minato, how many times must I say it, my friends need not bow in my presence, with a slight pout. Though a small smile crossed his face when he saw his friends chuckle. Sorry Vegeta, I love seeing the look on your face, Minato said laughing. While the king joined in before they got serious. Now why are you in such a panic? It must be something big for you to knock the door down, he said, pointing to said door. That was barely hanging off its hinges before it fell off completely, causing Minato to rub his head sheepishly. Sorry, but there is a giant comet headed our way and a few of our people are having problems using their powers, Minato said, causing Vegeta to look at him in shock before he followed Minato to his lab. All the while remembering a story his mother once told him as a child about a comet with the power to shut down Ki. Flashback. Vegeta, there is something I need to tell you, a story even more so than the legendary Super Saiyan, the woman said, confusing the young boy. There is a story more amazing than the legendary Super Saiyan, Vegeta said in awe. Yes, but this story is more of a story of destruction than the Saiyan of legend. It was said that there was a comet which was dubbed the Achilles Comet, Vegeta's mother said as she began the story. Long ago, about 10,000 years or so, our original home planet Sadala was brought to the brink of destruction by a comet which was said to make all those who used the power of Ki useless, Vegeta's mother said, shocking him. However, upon destruction came a hero. It was said he was able to slow the comet down by transforming into a great ape. Long enough for most of our people to escape. However, the form he took was no mere ape. It was said our savior had pure golden fur, the woman said, causing the future king to gasp in awe. But then frowned when he saw his mother's face. He didn't make it, did he? Vegeta asked as his mother shook her head. No, he lived only long enough to give our people enough time to escape. Before the comet collided with the planet, killing those that could not escape in time, including him, Vegeta's mother said. Wow, so what happened to the comet after it destroyed the planet? Vegeta asked. It was said the comet vanished after the destruction it caused across space. No one has seen it since, the woman said, getting a smile from Vegeta. Flashback end. So the story mother told me was no mere story after all, Vegeta thought with a frown. Knowing his people were in serious trouble. Lab. Soon Minato and Vegeta arrived at the lab where a picture of the comet was seen. Impossible, it is at least 60 miles, that's big enough to destroy the planet at least 3 times over, Vegeta said in shock, getting a sad nod from Minato. Before the door to the lab was then kicked open. Unfortunately, 2 scientists were in the crossfire of the flying door and were knocked out cold with swirls in their eyes. Minato, what's this I hear about a comet coming to destroy the planet? A furious redhead Saiyan woman shouted with her hair in the form of 9 tails. Scaring everyone in the room, including a slightly scared king. Now Kushina, everything is going to be fine, Minato said, trying to hide his fear of this woman. What do you mean everything will be fine? There is a comet coming to destroy us and all you can say everything is going to be fine. Kushina shouted, stomping up to Minato with her long red hair flickering between red and gold. Relax sweetheart, everything is okay. There is still time to send Naruto away before the comet hits. That way at least one of our race survives and we are not completely extinct, Minato said until Vegeta spoke up. Actually Minato, a Saiyan named Nappa, My son Vegeta, your cousin and Bardock's oldest, are off planet selling another planet, the king said, causing Minato to frown at the mention of selling a planet. While their race were planet brokers, it didn't mean he liked the fact of killing unless needed something, Vegeta noted. Minato, I understand you don't like how our race does business. But remember, we are a proud warrior race. Most of us are honorable while others are not, Vegeta said, getting a frown but a nod from Kushina and Minato before they heard a voice. Mom, Dad, I can't use my powers, a young 10-year-old boy called out, walking into the lab, showing he had red spiky hair, blue eyes, and a gold tail wrapped around his waist. Followed by a black-haired woman in Saiyan armor with pink bottoms with a brown tail wrapped around her waist as well, and looked to be 18 years of age. Oh, hi there, Uncle Spikehead, the young boy said, sending the king crashing to the ground with his leg twitching and his parents to the floor laughing up a storm. Before he was gently smacked on the head by the female Saiyan beside him. Now Naruto, what did I tell you about respect? The woman asked, trying hard to keep from smirking. Ah, but Fasha-chan, Uncle Vegeta knows I love him, don't you, Uncle? Naruto asked with a smile, missing the blush Fasha had at the chan suffix Naruto put at the end of her name. Before the king brought his nephew into a hug. But of course I do, nephew, and the reason you can't use your powers is because of this, Vegeta said, showing him a comet that was just minutes away from killing them all. I would say sadly we only have about 30 minutes to evacuate as much of us as possible. Maybe 20 due to the velocity of the comet, Naruto said, causing the others to have grim smiles on their faces. There are currently 2 space pods here. One for Naruto and one for Fasha, Minato said in a sad voice, making the others frown. But if we leave now, you, Mom, and Uncle Vegeta can come with us, Naruto said desperately, getting a slow head shake from his mom. I'm afraid we wouldn't make it, son. The space bridge is 35 minutes away. We would never make it in time, Kushina said, trying hard not to cry. Even the mighty king himself was trying not to shed tears. Then I'll stay too, Naruto shouted, running to his parents and hugging them, while they wrapped their arms around him. No, Naruto, you have to leave. You are the last of our race along with 3 others. For if Bardock gets his son Kakarot in a pod in time, Minato said he didn't want to send his son away either. But they didn't have a choice as they looked at Fasha, who had a sad smile as she led Naruto to his pod. While Naruto looked at his parents one last time. With Bardock. I don't like this at all, Bardock, a woman said. She had short black hair sort of spiked with blue Saiyan armor, a device on her left eye with a pink lens, and a tail that was loosely behind her. This was Jain, mother to Kakarot and Raditz and wife to the Saiyan Bardock. I know you don't, Jain. I don't like it either, but with the comet of legend upon us, we have no choice but to send our infant son away so at least he survives. I know Kushina and Minato are sending their son Naruto away, as well as my friend Fasha, a man with brown Saiyan armor, black pants, and the same device Jain wore. Except the lens was green. This was Bardock, father to Kakarot and Raditz, husband to Jain. But we don't even know that the planet he will land on will be safe for him, Jain said while Bardock typed in coordinates into the ship's computer. That's why I am sending it to Earth, where there are very few threats to him until he grows, Bardock said with a small smile before looking at his son. Then hitting a record button on the ship to record for him a final message. Kakarot, my name is Bardock. I am your father. Now listen up, son. Your mother and I sent you to a planet called Earth because a giant comet is coming to destroy us all. There was not enough time for us to join you, which is why you are here by yourself. I am truly sorry, my son, but I want you to live on. You have the blood of a proud warrior race called the Saiyans. This is my message to you. Live, Bardock said before he let his wife have her say. Kakarot, my name is Jain. I am your mother. My message is pretty much the same as your father's. Live, have a good life, make friends, have a family, protect them at any cost. Oh, and one more thing your father probably forgot to tell you. Watch out for the one known as Frieza, he is a tyrant. Please Kakarot, do not fight him until you have become the Super Saiyan of legend, Jine said as she ended the message with tears in her eyes as she closed the pod and launched. Just as the comet could be seen, with Minato, Kushina, and Vegeta. At the same time, Jine and Bardock launched their son into space. Minato and Kushina launched their son as well as Fasha. Before the planet gained an eerie red hue to it as the comet drew ever closer and the planet exploded, sending debris everywhere. Sending the pod Kakarot was sleeping in to shoot faster toward its destination. Computer, please show me Planet Vegeta's final moments, Naruto said sadly before the computer showed him a visual of Planet Vegeta. Goodbye, mother, father. I'll never forget you, Naruto said, which made Fasha's heart break hearing Naruto's pained voice just before the comet collided with the planet. Unfortunately, the explosion knocked their pods off course. Fasha-chan, what hit us? Naruto asked as he was trying to remain seated, but the bumpy ride was making that hard to do. It was the explosion, Naruto-kun. The comet must have impacted it. We are off course, Fasha said to Naruto with another blush. What, you mean we are not headed to the same planet Kakarot is headed to? Naruto asked in shock and worry for the newborn. That is exactly what I am saying, Naruto-kun, Fasha said. She was also worried about her friend's son. Computer, which planet are we heading for at our current course? Naruto asked as the computer calculated. At the same time, his companion listened in as well. Due to the current course, we are heading for the planet Elementia. Estimated time of arrival is 1 year, the computer said as Naruto sighed. Better get comfy. Fasha-chan, it is going to be a long ride, Naruto said while Fasha smiled, although Naruto could not see it. It's okay, Naruto-kun. We have nothing but time now, Fasha said before she sat back with her arms folded and closed her eyes. With Naruto doing the same, both wondering what kind of people they would meet when they got there, Fasha looked out her pod's window and greatly widened her eyes. Naruto-kun, I think we have a problem, Fasha said, seeing a swirling vortex straight ahead causing Naruto to pale greatly. Shit, if that is what I think it is. Then I don't know if we are even going to make it to the planet, Naruto said before the ships entered the vortex and vanished. With Kakarot, meanwhile, the young Saiyan baby now known as Kakarot slept peacefully in his pod. As his ship flew peacefully without a care in the world towards its destination, unhindered by the explosion of the passenger's home planet and unaware that due to the explosion, he would be the only Saiyan there at least for a while. Unknown location. Vegeta, have you heard? Rumor has it that planet Vegeta was destroyed by a deadly comet that is capable of shutting down Ki. A man with long black somewhat spiky hair, brown Saiyan armor, a tail wrapped around his waist, and a device over his right eye with a green lens said. This was Raditz, firstborn to the now late Jine and Bardock and older brother to Kakarot. I did Raditz, so the destructive legend is true then. Here I always thought it was a bedtime story to scare people, Vegeta said with a frown. He was wearing blue Saiyan armor with shoulder pads and the same device Raditz was wearing on his face. But this one had a red lens to it. This was Vegeta, son of the now late King Vegeta. Hey Raditz, do you think your parents made it? A big muscular man asked with brown Saiyan armor and a device on his face as well as a blue lens. This was Nappa. I sure hope so, Nappa. Or at least had time to get my newborn brother Kakarot off the planet, Raditz said with a frown. Cheer up Raditz, once we are finished with our assignments, we can track down the planet your brother was sent to, Vegeta said, making Raditz smile a bit. Thanks, Vegeta, and hey, maybe Naruto is with him, won't they be surprised to find out they are not alone and show him we took his words to heart, Raditz said with a grin, getting one from Vegeta and a scoff from Nappa. Aw come on Raditz, don't tell me you're siding with that brat Naruto on how we do things now too, Nappa said with a sneer only to be blasted off his by Vegeta with a scowl on his face. Mind your tone, Nappa. Naruto may frown upon what we do but he is still family and I won't tolerate anyone who disrespects him, Vegeta said, losing his composure when Naruto was spoken about in such a disrespectful manner. While Nappa grumbled he always hated that brat's views on life. My Vegeta, don't tell me our favorite pacifist had such a positive effect on you as well, Raditz said with a smirk, getting one in return. Let's just say Naruto gave me a reason to spare those who are worth sparing. Instead of being a cold-blooded killer as well as to no longer look down on people just because they are weak, Vegeta said, recalling his cousin's words. Flashback. Vegeta, can I ask you why you fight? Naruto asked, causing Vegeta to respond almost instantly. For the honor and glory of the Saiyan race, for we are the strongest and the strong dominate the weak, Vegeta said proudly, getting a frown from Naruto which Vegeta saw. Is that truly the only reason you fight though? To fight and destroy those weaker than you just because you can? Naruto asked, causing Vegeta to pause and think about the answer he would give next. Was that his only reason? Did he truly have no other reason to fight that didn't revolve around honor and glory and simply killing others just cause he could? For the first time in his life, Vegeta began to question his reason for fighting. You have given me much to think about, cousin. I am afraid I do not have an answer yet. Can you give me time to think? Vegeta asked him as he got up to walk away but stopped to look back at Naruto, who also got up and grinned. Take as much time as you need, Vegeta, and I am glad I was able to give you something to think about, Naruto said, getting a smile from the prince. Instead of that smirk he was so proud of. Flashback end. Naruto had indeed given him something to think about. Oh, he still killed, but now he only did it when foolishly attacked or his family was mentioned in a bad way and never killed out of pleasure. He even managed to get Raditz to follow his lead, Vegeta thought. Sadly, Nappa was a lost cause. Many planets they visited are proof of that, although the bug planet was the only exception Vegeta made. Oh, he took great pleasure in wiping those disgusting insects out. Those were some nasty bugs, they made my very skin crawl, Vegeta thought, shivering in disgust. I honestly hope he made it out okay along with his crush, Vegeta said with a smirk which Raditz had no problem returning as well. Oh, they knew of his crush on the older female and took every chance they got to tease him about it, but were happy all the same. Ha, I say good riddance. I hope the explosion took him. One less weakling of our race, Nappa said until he was punched so hard in the gut he thought he was going to die. Nappa then looked up thinking he would find Vegeta in his line of sight, but found Raditz there instead of him with a look of pure hatred on his face, with his hair flickering from black to gold then back to black again, shocking Vegeta at what he saw and thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. I thought Prince Vegeta told you to watch your mouth. But since you are hard of hearing I will say it. If you disrespect Naruto again, low-class Saiyan or not, I will kill you myself. Raditz shouted as his hair flickered from black to gold again, causing Vegeta to blink and then rub his eyes. Okay, what am I seeing here? Is Raditz on his way to becoming the Saiyan of legend? Vegeta thought in shock. Why, you low-class scum, how dare you touch me? Nappa shouted, about to attack Raditz before Vegeta flexed his power, making Nappa freeze in fear. Nappa, I said enough. Or do you want me to kill you? Vegeta shouted, fed up with this idiot with hot air for a brain, getting a grumble in return. Vegeta, what planet are we headed for next? Raditz asked. Last I checked it's a slime planet, Vegeta said, getting a repulsive look from him and Nappa. Can we just destroy the planet? It doesn't seem like this planet is going to profit much, Nappa said, getting a groan from Raditz. I have to agree with the oaf with no brain. That sounds like a disgusting planet to sell, Raditz said, pissing off Nappa, but remembering the punch he got, Nappa wisely shut up. Little did he realize, however, he was already on the path to death because of his constant disrespect of Naruto. 1 year later. Wake up, Naruto, destination in sight, Naruto's computer said. As a mist shower went off before the pod's light came on and Naruto started to wake up. As well as Fasha before they saw the planet. That is one beautiful planet, Fasha-chan, Naruto said, causing Fasha to blush again before she voiced her thoughts. It sure is better than planet Vegeta. No offense to your cousin, Fasha said, not wanting to upset her best friend by dissing his cousin. Nah, don't worry about it. I'm sure Vegeta would agree with ya, Naruto said with a smirk. I'm sure he would, and it looks like we made it out of the vortex safely too, Fasha said. Then an alarm went off, making them both pale, knowing what that could mean. Danger, danger, malfunction. Primary thruster damaged, the computer said, causing Naruto and Fasha to panic. Brace for impact, Fasha-chan, it's going to be a bumpy ride, Naruto said. As they soared out of control toward the planet, hoping that wherever they landed there were no bystanders as they flew through the air toward a village with a fenced-off forest. Unfortunately, due to the out-of-control ships, they were discovered by several people, including one with a red-white hat on his head. Forest of Death. Crash. Soon the two ships landed heavily in a clearing. Thankfully the heavy armor protected it as the ships landed in one piece. Unfortunately, while one pod opened right side up revealing Fasha, the other wasn't so lucky and landed upside down. Ow! Naruto yelled as he fell out thanks to his pod being on top of Fasha's. While he then had swirls for eyes due to the roughness. Naruto-kun, are you alright? Fasha asked, worried for her friend as she rushed to check on him as he sat up and shook his head of the cobwebs. Yeah, I'm okay, thankfully the pods are self-repairable thanks to my father. Otherwise we would be stranded, Naruto said, shaking his head before taking out his scouter and started scanning the area they were in. Before they heard what sounded like an animal whining. Naruto, you hear that? It sounds like a wounded animal, Fasha said, before he lifted himself off the ground and flew off where they heard the sound. With Fasha following him. Unknown area. Soon Fasha and Naruto came into the area to look for the source of the wounded animal and came across a baby fox with a hurt leg. Before Naruto landed and approached the downed fox, who growled at him in warning until Naruto put his hands up showing the young fox he meant no harm whatsoever. Easy fella, I just want to help is all, Naruto said while the fox kid just whined, getting Naruto to look at his leg with a frown before he lifted his hand and held it over the baby fox's leg before sharing his power with the young kid as his wound started to heal. Here you go, little guy, Naruto said with a smile before the fox jumped into his arms and started licking him, causing him to laugh. Okay down boy, you're very welcome, Naruto said as the fox pulled back, yipping in happiness, making Fasha smile. Well, Naruto-kun, looks like you made a friend only after 1 minute of being here, Fasha said. But smiled in amusement when the fox jumped out of his hands, got in front of him, and started growling at her. Ah, isn't that cute, he is protecting you, Fasha said, giggling before she put her hands up in a surrender motion, humoring the fox. Good boy Kurama, you did a good job protecting me from this horrible person, Naruto said with a grin. As they all laughed when the little fox kid puffed out his chest in pride and at the same time accepted the name he was just given. Although Fasha is not an enemy, she is a friend, Kurama, Naruto said before the now named Kurama walked up to Fasha and started circling her, sniffing her. Before he sat down in front of her, tilting his head before yipping at her, causing her to bend over and pick him up and pet him, making him purr. Ah, you are such a cutie, Fasha cooed out, making Kurama yip more before Fasha and Naruto's scouter went off, making them eye a tree. Come on out, we know you are there, Naruto said before Kurama jumped out of Fasha's arms, got in front of them, and started growling at the tree, causing the person in the said tree to jump out in front of them. Revealing said person to be a woman in a fishnet bodysuit, skirt, and trench coat. This was Anko Mitarashi, sadist specialist in the T&I department. Wow, was all Naruto said, looking at the woman, making Fasha jealous. That's what got his attention. Fasha asked, "Hey, just because she was a Saiyan warrior didn't mean she liked Naruto's attention on anyone else except her, even though he was only 11. So you were the two that caused the commotion," the woman said, smirking at the young fox kid that was still growling at her. "It's okay, Kurama, she is no threat," Naruto said, unintentionally pissing off the woman, who threw a kunai at him, which he caught and turned to face her just as she appeared behind him, causing her eyes to widen. "Sorry, I didn't mean for that to sound offensive," Naruto said as his scouter beat, showing the women's power level shot up to 1515. "Wow, impressive power reading of 1515, and I am guessing that's not even her full power," Fasha said, shocking the woman further. "You mean that device on your face could not only track me, but tell you how strong I am?" the woman said, causing the two to nod. "That is right, but where are our manners? My name is Naruto and this is my best friend Fasha. As you guessed, we are not from this planet, we crash-landed here because of our planet exploding," Naruto said with a frown, causing the woman to look down in sadness. But then perked up and introduced herself. "I am the sexy but single Anko Mitarashi," the now named Anko said, posing as a banner dropped down behind her. As Naruto, Kurama, who was done growling at the woman, and Fasha looked at her in amusement. "Very cute, Anko-san," Naruto said, clapping along with Fasha and Kurama using his paws. Before she gave them a bow and sent them a wink before straightening up. "As I said before, you caused quite a commotion that our leader saw you as your ships flew past and sent me to investigate," Anko with a smirk, causing Naruto and Fasha to rub their heads. "Sorry about that, it seemed our ships sustained some damage upon our escape from our home planet," Fasha said with a frown at the loss of their people. As she turned to Naruto with a small smile on his face. "Fasha, don't you remember what Mother told us? We are not the last of our race, including you, me, and Kakarot. There are 6 of us left," Naruto said, unaware of there being another. As Anko looked at them at the weird name they just said. "Right, if you two will come with me, we can see the old man," Anko said, getting a chuckle and giggle from the two Saiyans and yips from Kurama, which they assumed were laughs. "Very well, Miss Anko, lead the way then," Naruto said as he and Fasha hovered off the ground, shocking Anko. Before Kurama jumped on Naruto's shoulder, shocking him, but smiled as he flew over to Anko and picked her up under her arms, making her squeal as Fasha flew after them. With Anko, Fasha, and Naruto. "Wow, this place is amazing, wouldn't you say, Fasha-chan?" Naruto asked, causing his companion to nod and blush again, as he continued to put the chan suffix after her name before they looked down and saw the villagers staring at them in awe. "It sure is, Naruto-kun. Though I do have to admit, these people staring at us look like they never saw a flying person before," Fasha said before laughing while Anko smirked. "That's because they haven't seen an actual flying person before. The only person that has been known to pull that off is the leader of the Stone Village," Anko said. "So no one knows how to use ki," Naruto said, confusing Anko with the word he just used and voicing her confusion. "What's ki?" Anko asked, causing Naruto and Fasha to realize not everyone uses ki, so Fasha decided to explain, with Naruto jumping in every now and then. Ki, also known as latent energy, or fighting power, which directly translates as life force. This force is a tangible energy inside every living being, with its major focus being in the center of the body. By drawing it out, manipulating it, and using it outside the body, ki can be used for many different techniques, Fasha began before Naruto jumped in. Because there are physical limits to the strength of the body itself, it is necessary to increase one's ki to overcome this barrier and become stronger, Naruto said before continuing. Usually, the more concentrated the masses are, the more time the user requires to draw it out by powering up, Naruto said before Fasha took over once again. You see, when fighters gather ki, they can gain enhanced strength, speed, and endurance, and can increase the power of their attacks to inflict greater damage to opponents, Fasha said, looking over to Anko, who was still being carried by Naruto, getting a nod from her to show she was still listening before Naruto took over again. Normally, the more ki is increased, the harder it is to control, so ki control is also important, Naruto said before Kurama yipped, and for some reason, Fasha and Naruto were able to understand what he was saying. Yes, animals to have ki. I have encountered a few off-planet. You see, my race are what you would call planet broker. Most of us find a planet that we think will make a profitable sell, exterminate its inhabitants, then get it ready for selling to other life forms, Naruto said, getting a frown from Anko. There are some pretty disgusting creatures on most planets, Fasha said with a shudder. Thinking of the one planet she went to, which was full of disgusting sludge people, which she was honestly all too happy to exterminate, considering she let one of their attacks hit her. Thinking it was nothing, and she wound up heavily embarrassed when she had to fly home in her pod. Naruto just glared at nothing as he was told about that particular planet, and once she told him about what happened, he left for the planet and wiped it out of existence with a vindictive smile on his face. Oh, and what kind of planets did you go to? Anko asked curiously. Well, like I said, this one planet had nothing but sludge creatures on it, and let's just say you do not want to let any of their attacks hit you. An embarrassing fact I found out firsthand, Fasha said, frowning when she saw Naruto's glare. Bastards deserved to die after what they did to you, Naruto said with pure hatred in his voice. Before Fasha flew up to him and kissed his cheek with a smile. Are you still upset that sludge creature stripped me with his attack, Naruto-kun? Fasha asked with a smile. You're damn right I am. But I have to admit it shocked me when you flew through my window to avoid being seen, Naruto said, blushing, remembering how she flew into his window and he got a full eyeful of her Nked body, including her firm, when she thought no one was home. That was the first time he ever saw an odd woman, wasn't it? A shocked Anko asked Fasha, referring to Naruto and getting her to nod. It was his face was so red he passed out with a nosebleed, Fasha said, finding his reaction to her nacked body cute. Even though he was only 7 at the time, though frowned after he vanished after he woke up and she was already gone. Still, you didn't have to go and vaporize the planet, those creatures were already dead, Fasha said with a frown. 1. I did it to protect your pride as a Saiyan, I know how much that means to you, and 2. Those things apparently didn't stay dead for long. When I got there I sensed a whole lot of life on that planet, and it was the same energy signature that I felt on you after you came back, Naruto said with a frown, thinking she was still disappointed in him for what he did. However, now that she knew why he did it, disappointment was so far back in her mind that she couldn't help but smile. He wanted to protect her dignity and pride, though she greatly frowned when he said they reformed after she and her team left. While Anko smiled, thinking how sweet it was that Naruto protected the one thing a woman held sacred to her. By the way, Anko, what's that mark on your neck? It reeks of evil, Naruto said. Then when he felt Anko stiffen up, he guessed he hit a sore subject and was about to apologize, until she told him what it was. It's a curse mark my former sensei left me before he abandoned me and left the village, Anko said with malice in her voice, causing Naruto to frown. Fasha-chan, can you activate my scouter so I can get a reading on this thing? Naruto asked before Fasha flew to the other side of him and pushed the button, turning it on. Before the scouter started scanning the mark on Anko's neck before it started beeping. Well, this is a problem. Well, sort of, Naruto said, getting a look from Fasha, and while he couldn't see it, a frown from Anko, not liking what he said. What did you find about the mark, Naruto-kun? Fasha asked while Anko wanted to know as well. You mean aside from the fact this mark can be removed, Or the fact that it has a soul in it just waiting to take control if she uses it? Naruto asked, getting wide-eyed looks from both women, unknowingly pissing off Anko. I knew it. I knew that old pervert was lying to me. Anko raged while Fasha frowned more. Please tell me you can remove it, Anko said with a begging face, looking at Fasha. Then tilted her head up to look at Naruto, who sadly shook his head. I have no idea how it works. Nor am I qualified to handle such things from other planets, Naruto said, causing Anko to frown. Until Naruto spoke up again, hoping his next words would help her. Still, my father was a scientist, and while I am not on his level, I am willing to try, Naruto said, making both girls smile. Or in Anko's case a sort of upside-down smile due to her bending her head backward to look up at him. Keep being sweet like that, Naruto-kun, and you are going to have women at your feet left and right before you turn 20. Including me, Fasha said, getting laughs from both of them and a blush from Naruto. Fasha-chan, I'm just being honest here, Naruto said with a furiously blushing face before Fasha smirked. Ah, that's too bad. I guess you don't want my as in your future then, Fasha said before she flew in front of Naruto and gave her SS a good smack, making it jiggle before Naruto almost dropped Anko due to his blush increasing, causing the two women to laugh. Especially Anko, not at all worried that she was almost dropped, knowing she was safe with them for some reason. Now where was I? Naruto asked, wanting to finish on how to use the power of ki. Oh yeah, now I remember. Now energy can be lost when the user sustains injuries. So maintaining proper balance between the body and spirit is important in utilizing energy, and the more properly balanced they are, the more energy you can project, Naruto finished while Fasha nodded, agreeing with what Naruto said. As Anko nodded as well before they arrived at a big red tower with the word cage written on the building in a strange language. Hokage Tower. Once the three arrived, Naruto set Anko down before he and Fasha landed and walked the stairs before making their way to a door and knocked before they heard an elderly voice telling them to enter. So Anko opened the door and Naruto and Fasha came face to face with an old man sitting behind a desk with gray hair, smiling kindly at them. Greetings, space travelers, and welcome to our humble planet. I am Hiruzen Sarutobi, the third Hokage of the village in which you crashed in, Hiruzen said, getting all of them to chuckle before his scouter went off. Who is the person standing behind you trying to hide their presence? Naruto asked, getting Hiruzen to stare at him in shock that he knew his guard was there, before signaling for the Anbu to join them, seeing it was pointless to hide. Which the Anbu did seconds later, showing a person with long purple hair with a cat mask on. This was Yugao Azuki, the village sword mistress. Pleasure to meet you, ma'am. My name is Naruto and this is my good friend Fasha, Naruto said as Fasha waved to her. Then Naruto walked up to her to shake her hand, which she returned with a shocked look on her face, thankful that her face was hidden. It also shocked Hiruzen and Anko but confused Fasha. Naruto-kun, how do you know it's a woman? For all you know it can be a man, Fasha said before Naruto pointed to his nose. Unlikely. For one, her body type doesn't show the least bit of manliness. Second, the firmness when she shook my hand was not that of a man but of a woman, and last, I can smell the fragrance of moonflowers on her, Naruto said with a smile, shocking them even more. Very good, Naruto. Yes, I am indeed a woman, the cat-masked Anbu said with a hidden smile before he smiled at her. Besides, even if I was wrong, her feminine voice just gave her away as well, Naruto further said with a smirk, making the masked Anbu giggle seeing the shocked looks on their faces. Suddenly Naruto's scouter went off again, so he followed the arrow and saw it was pointing beside Hiruzen's head. So he pointed his finger beside his head and used a ki blast, killing the fool who was trying to remain hidden, shocking everyone including the Hokage as he looked at the now dead Anbu. Naruto, you know that was another one of my Anbu, right? Hiruzen asked, getting a shake of the head from him, confusing them. I somehow doubt that. Unless you have Anbu with blank masks, Naruto said, pointing to the dead Anbu's mask. Which they all looked at and saw that he was correct, making Hiruzen scowl. Wow, Naruto-kun, these new scouters your father made really do work to that extent, don't they? Fasha teased, getting a grin from him. Indeed they do. In fact, I have kind of a confession. The primary reason I knew Neko here as a woman was because the scouter gave me an almost complete bio, he said, surprising them all including Fasha, since her scouter doesn't have that detail, his does. Did that scouter tell you what my name is then? Neko asked, deciding to test what all that scouter, as he called it, told him about her. Making Naruto shake his head. No, it only works if people are not wearing something to cover their entire face. Beautiful, Naruto said with a smile, causing the two women to blush as well as the Anbu, even though her face was covered so no one could tell. It was then the fox Naruto had decided to make himself known again by giving a few yips, surprising them all. Oh, you have a small companion with you and a fox, I see, Hiruzen said with a smile. Until Kurama jumped off Naruto's shoulder and ran to the Anbu and began sniffing her. I think Kurama likes you, Naruto said, which he found weird since that was the third woman today and he didn't growl at her like he did Anko. Then the Anbu picked the young fox up and he nuzzled her, making her giggle. Before Kurama took her mask and jumped away from her, shocking them all and revealing her face to them. Now Kurama, that's not nice, return it to her, Naruto said as he reached for the mask before Kurama shook his head. Then ran to the other side of the room before looking at her. I think you have to catch him before he returns it, Fasha said with a giggle, followed by Anko. Better get going, Ne-chan. That is if you want your mask back, Anko said with a smirk, getting a playful glare from her, before she started chasing the fox as all of them smiled in amusement. So what brings you here? Hiruzen asked as the purple-haired woman was seen in the background every now and again running after the fox. Well, we just happened upon this planet by chance, due to our home planet being destroyed by a comet that shut off our ki. So we could not defend ourselves and the explosion knocked our pods off course and we crash-landed in a forest. Which is where we found him, Fasha said, then pointing to Kurama, who was still being chased by the woman. Intentionally leaving out the part about the vortex, they didn't think he would believe that. So you're more than homeless, you are planetless as well, Hiruzen said with a frown, even getting one from the woman chasing Kurama, who stopped to look at the two off-worlders with a sad look in her eyes. Even Kurama stopped to look at them, giving the woman a chance to get her mask back. Way to go, Yugao, Naruto said with a smirk, shocking the others that he knew her name, but then remembered what he said about his scouter, which they assumed was the device on his face. A power level of 1616 in 2020, huh? Not bad, Naruto said, shocking them. I assume that device is some kind of power detector as well, Hiruzen asked, getting a nod from the two. Yep, Anko has a power of 1515, Fasha said, getting a smug look from Yugao while Anko playfully glared at her best friend. Yep, but you're probably all just suppressing your true power levels. So it's not really useful, Naruto said before taking his off and putting it on his side, followed by Fasha. Then Anko spoke up when she realized something. You said you were planet brokers, right? Anko said, getting the two to nod and the others to freeze up hearing the word broker. Then couldn't you just find yourselves a new planet to live on? She asked, causing them to shake their heads, receiving a confusing look from her. It doesn't work like that, Anko. We sell planets to other races. That rule doesn't apply to us since our planet was top-notch, and even if we wanted to conquer a planet to live on, there are only about 6 of us left, Fasha said with a frown. So you're not only planetless, you're almost extinct, Anko said, now feeling worse than she did before. unknowingly making Yugao feel just as bad for them. Fasha and I originally planned to follow our fellow Saiyan Kakarot to Earth. But like I said, the explosion of our planet knocked us off course. Fortunately, the outside is covered in armor, so there wasn't any damage. Except maybe the thrusters, which is how we came to crash in that forest, Naruto said. Suddenly an Anbu entered the room and bowed to the Hokage. Lord Hokage, the council demands your presence along with the two aliens, the Anbu said as Hiruzen's chakra spiked, setting off their scouters. Before Naruto took his and widened his eyes at what he saw. Wow, a power level of 2525. Now that's impressive for a human, Fasha said, making Naruto nod. I didn't know the council was allowed to call meetings. Since I am the Hokage of this village, Hiruzen said sternly, causing the two Saiyans to frown. Sounds like some people in this village need to be re-educated on the pecking order around here, Fasha-chan, Naruto said with a vicious grin. One she returned unknowingly, making Anko and Yugao blush. Whatever you two are thinking, please don't kill them and give me more paperwork. Even if they are stupid in the head, Hiruzen said, making the two Saiyans, Anko and Yugao, laugh before the three started walking to the council chamber. So I have to ask, what's up with the head mountain? Some kind of monument? Naruto asked, looking at the mountain along with Fasha. We carved the Hokage's faces into the cliffside. To honor their leadership and dedication to the village, Hiruzen said, looking to his predecessors. Although he frowned at what became of the one who succeeded him. But if you are the third, what happened to the fourth? Naruto asked before Hiruzen frowned. Sadly, my former student Orochimaru killed him. When he was caught performing child experimentation and tried to stop him, he said, causing the two Saiyans to frown, and told themselves they would avenge this fourth Hokage. If they ever caught this Orochimaru. Council chamber. Soon Hiruzen and the Saiyans arrived in the council chambers, which was split by a large rectangle table, and on either side of the table were two sets of people. On one side were people in normal clothing, causing Naruto and Fasha to guess they were the unimportant people, while on the other side were people in gear, showing they were at least of some importance. But what had Naruto's attention was how these people carried themselves. One had black hair shaped into the style of a pineapple, with a scar on his cheek, black eyes, and while he looked very lazy. However, Naruto could tell this man was very intelligent, even though to Naruto he just preferred to be lazy. This was Shikaku Nara, head of the Nara clan. The second had brown hair, swirls on his cheeks, brown eyes, and looked like he was pleasantly plump, but both Fasha and Naruto could tell he was a very kind soul, caring about his friends and would do anything to help them even if he didn't like to fight. This was Choza Akamichi, head of the Akamichi clan. The third was a man with long blonde hair in a ponytail, blue eyes, and the way this man carried himself, and if he was honest with himself, he looked like someone that could break your mind if you angered him. This was Inoichi Yamanaka, a mental specialist and head of the Yamanaka clan. The fourth was a man with short, wild, spiky black hair, dark shades, and high collar covering his mouth, and you could see a slight mustache. This was Shibi Aburame, head of the Aburame clan and bug user. The last male had long brown hair, white eyes like he was blind, and a very stoic face that made him seem almost unapproachable. This was Hiyashi Hyuga, head of the Hyuga clan. Although the last two, which were females, unnerved him quite a lot. The first woman had wild brown spiky hair, slitted eyes, and markings on her cheeks that looked like fangs, and she was looking at him with pure lust, making him shiver. This was Sume Inuzuka, head of the Inuzuka clan. The last woman wasn't any better. She had black long hair, a soft face, and black eyes, and she was looking at him the same way the first woman. This was Makoto Uchiha, the matriarch of the Uchiha clan. Fasha-chan, why do I suddenly feel like I am a piece of meat? Naruto asked, causing the men who heard him to chuckle. Even the stoic Hiyashi and the women giggle. Fasha then frowned and activated her scouter, scanning all their levels, and frowned even more seeing they all had weak power levels except one side of the table and for some reason an elder man. Naruto-kun, I don't think you have to worry aside from the people to your right. The others are so pathetic it's not even funny, they only have a power level of 5, Fasha said, pissing them off and causing the shinobi side to chuckle. While the sole young woman on the pathetic side chuckled under her breath. "Who are you calling weak? We are the honorable council of this village and you will show us the proper respect." An arrogant fat man on the pathetic side yelled. But they just dismissed him like the bug, he was pissing him off more. "I would ask why are we here, but I think Hiruzen here would like to ask that question himself," Naruto said, getting shocked looks from the people at the show of disrespect for the leader of the village. Not that the old man minded if the unnoticeable smile on his face was anything. "The young man is right. How dare you overstep your boundaries and call a council meeting without my approval," Hiruzen said with a furious tone of voice, raising his chakra and setting off their scouters again, but this time showing them a reading of 3,535, impressing them further. "We were just concerned, Hiruzen. We saw the unidentified objects fly into the forest of death. So naturally we wanted to know if we were being invaded," a mummy-looking man with only one eye said. This was Danzo Shimura, head of the Root faction, before a ki blast was sent flying past him, grazing his cheek, shocking him, and saw the female with her hand out with one finger out, showing she was the one that did it. "I believe that's Lord Hokage to you, One Eye, so know your place, shut your mouth and speak when your leader is speaking to you directly, worm," Fasha said with a smirk one Naruto mirrored, causing everyone to shiver. Except for the women who licked their lips at both of them, causing Fasha to raise an eyebrow. "Forgive me, Lord Hokage, I spoke out of turn," the mummy said in a slightly scared tone of voice. He didn't even see that attack coming at all, and that worried him greatly. "However, if I can take control over just one of them, I can rule this village and the world," the mummy thought with a mad look in his eye, then used his hidden eye to try and take over the two's minds, only to find out that he couldn't. "Oi!" The two Saiyans looked at the mummy, then each other, and nodded, having felt the same thing, and decided to keep an eye on this guy. "What exactly are you two anyway?" the sole woman on the pathetic side asked with a smile, slightly licking her lips while looking at Naruto. She was a fair-skinned woman with shoulder-length, blonde hair with a single bang that fell into her face, and green eyes with a white kipao dress. This was Mebuki Haruno, the more sensible one of the civilian council. "We are a proud warrior race called Saiyans. I guess you could say we are sort of planet brokers that sell planets to the highest bidder." "Well, most of us anyway," Naruto said, putting the entire council on guard, including the two women who were literally eye-humping them. "However, we are kind of stranded here. That is until our ships finish repairing the damage that they sustained from our planet exploding," Fasha said, getting sad and horrified looks from everyone. Except the old fossils, who were grinning, thinking that if they could get their hands on just one of their ships they would be the strongest village around. "So you're the last of your kind?" asked the blonde green-eyed woman with a sad frown on her face, getting a head shake from them and confusing them. "No, aside from me and Naruto-kun here, 4 more of us remain. One was sent to a distant planet we were on a course for when the explosion knocked us off course. The other 3 were already off the planet," Fasha said. "Though it's probably 5 of us left if that idiot Nappa isn't already dead," Fasha mumbled under her breath, getting a chuckle from Naruto. Knowing Nappa most likely will already be dead by the time they meet up again. "Before anyone asks though, Naruto and I have no problem roughing it in the forest. We spotted a tower there before we crashed in the second clearing near some shrine," Fasha said, making everyone widen their eyes knowing what shrine they meant, and smiled. "Well then, enjoy the tower. But word of advice, try not to destroy it. We use that for an exam that's coming up soon," Hiruzen said with a chuckle, getting everyone else to chuckle except a furious mummy who was not happy and made it well known. Absolutely not, that tower is strictly for the Chunin exams. To allow these outsiders to have a home in the tower is outrageous. You can't make that decision without our approval, Hokage, or not. The mummy shouted before Hiruzen leveled a glare at him and spiked his chakra, setting off their scouters, but they paid them no mind, figuring his power level was still the same. Are you seeing this, Fasha-chan? Naruto asked with a shocked face, making Fasha nod with her eyes widened. I am Naruto-kun, he has a power level of 3535, Fasha said, highly impressed with this human and wondering if there were others just as strong. You speak out of line, Danzo. I am Hokage, not you. This is a shinobi village, civilians only have a say in wartime. This isn't wartime, so as Naruto here said, know your place and shut your mouth, civilian. Hiruzen said with a smirk, getting a playful glare in return, shocking the civilians and making the shinobi laugh. Matter of fact, you civilians can leave, this doesn't concern you, Hiruzen said as the civilian side got up to leave. Glaring at the two Saiyans as they left, however, Naruto stopped one in particular. Hold up, you girl in the white dress, Naruto said as the woman looked over her shoulder with a kind smile. My name is Mebuki Haruno, Mebuki said as Naruto and Fasha nodded, acknowledging the name before Naruto spoke up. You can stay, I can tell you're not like them. I can see you have some knowledge of these ninja arts, am I correct? Naruto asked as Mebuki nodded. Yes, I am a former ninja. I used to be a jonin before I retired to take care of my daughter before she started the academy, Mebuki said with a smile before Hiruzen smiled and nodded for her to stay until her arm was grabbed by the fat man of the council. Come on, Mebuki, let's leave the old fossil to these space invaders, the fat man said before a shot rang out and phased through Mebuki and killed the man. Before the remaining people in the room looked at Naruto, who had his finger extended showing he was the one that killed the man, with a vicious smile on his face, while the two women on the shinobi side rubbed their legs. Now that's no way to treat a woman, and I'm just an 11-year-old child, fat ass, Naruto said as Fasha looked at him with a smirk, but if you looked closer you could see a light dust of pink on her cheeks. While Mebuki blushed as well. That was impressive, but tell me, how is it your shot didn't kill Miss Haruno? She was right in front of the man. The man with a pineapple-shaped hairstyle asked before Naruto smirked. Simple, she wasn't the target, so the shot passed right through her without harming her, Naruto said, getting confused looks from everyone except Fasha. Sorry, but everyone is entitled to their secrets. You wouldn't willingly give away the secrets of your village if I asked now, would you? Mr. Lazy, Naruto said as everyone's sweat dropped, seeing he had a point. However, they did laugh when Naruto called Shikaku lazy. I have a name, you know, it's Shikaku Nara, Shikaku said with an annoyed tone. I am still going to call you Mr. Lazy, you don't seem all in it like Blonde and Mr. Big Boned over here, Naruto said with a smirk, getting everyone to fall over laughing. Including said Blonde and the big boned man, receiving a tired glare from Shikaku. By the way, who are the two women giving me, and if I am right, Fasha-chan bedroom eyes? Naruto asked while the men moved away from the two women. Well, Naruto, allow me to introduce the Shinobi Council. To my right is Shikaku Nara, the most intelligent along with his clan, or Mr. Lazy as you call him, Hiruzen said, making Naruto raise his eyebrow. I can tell he was intelligent when we first walked it. But why does he sit around and waste it then? Naruto asked as the rest chuckled. He thinks it's a drag until his wife gets on his and their son's case. Or if there is a war that needs to be won, the man with the ponytail said with another chuckle. So in other words, he is an absolute waste of a life. If his wife isn't around or it's not wartime, good to know that my respect for you is now down to 0, Fasha said bluntly. While the others hung their jaws at how blunt this woman was to Shikaku's way of life. Well, I can't say I disagree with Fasha-chan here. If I was in his place I would be making sure this village had the best defenses in case of an invasion, Naruto said, frowning a bit. While everyone looked at Shikaku, who was fast asleep, making Naruto's and Fasha's eye twitch. Fasha then raised a hand and fired off a ki blast that exploded inches away from Shikaku's face. Before he fell backward in shock, getting very shocked looks from everyone else. Real men also don't fall asleep when someone is trying to teach them. I don't care how smart you are, Fasha said with a glare at the man. How troublesome, Shikaku said. Before he dunked a ki blast that went over his head and hit the wall. Care to repeat that? Naruto asked with a dangerous tone as an aura appeared around him in the shape of an Uzaru head, making him pale and quickly shake his head in fear. No, nothing, sir, Shikaku said while everyone laughed at the poor man. Yes, well, if you're done scaring, my tactician. Second is Inochi Yamanaka, one of the best in the T&A department. Ah, torture and interrogation, huh? I assume you're very good at what you do, huh? Naruto asked for a nod from Inoichi, until he saw Naruto's grin and knew he was about to be tested. Okay, true or false, I come here from a distant planet. Not because of the loss of my planet, but because this planet is on my list as a viable cell. After I kill every single person here except the women and children. The children I sell, the women I keep as my slaves. Naruto asked with a straight face, making everyone gap at him except Fasha, who smirks. That is obviously a lie. You don't have a single evil bone in your body. Despite being part of a race of planet brokers, Inoichi said, grinning, causing Naruto and Fasha to grin back. Very good, you saw through that lie pretty fast. I'm impressed, Naruto said, grinning more. Before Hiruzen cleared his throat and turned to the big-boned guy. The third person is Choza Akamichi, head of the Akamichi clan, Hiruzen said, only to see Naruto gone and on the table, crouched down in front of the man, staring at him as if staring into his soul. You big guy, you have a very kind soul, one that does not like to fight. But will if his friends are in trouble, Naruto said with a smile, patting his shoulder and making him smile. Thank you, Naruto, and I can tell you have a kind soul as well. Despite being from a race of planet brokers, Choza said as he patted Naruto's shoulder as well. Naruto then leapt off the table, doing a backflip before landing by Fasha's side. Before Mebuki saw something gold around his waist. Naruto, if I may, what is that thing on your waist? Mebuki asked before Naruto grinned at her, making her blush again. It is my tail all of us Saiyans have at birth, Naruto said as he unwrapped his tail and it swayed back and forth. Until Mebuki tried to touch it before his tail gently smacked her hand away. I wouldn't do that for some Saiyans, it's a weakness for us. We lose all our power if they are grabbed, Naruto said, making everyone frown until they realized he said for some it's a weakness. So it can be overcome then? Sume asked, getting a nod from Fasha. Question. Why is your tail gold while Fasha's is brown? Makoto asked, making them think. That's actually a good question. I guess the best answer would be I'm not sure. I am the only one of my race with a golden tail, Naruto said with a frown, wondering if that was why people saw him as different. Until Fasha hugged his arm for support, getting a frown from Makoto. Sorry, I didn't mean to bring up bad memories, she said as Naruto just waved it off. Forget it, it's not like I was an outcast, I was actually well respected for the most part, Naruto said, grinning, getting a grin in return before Hiruzen cleared his throat again. Can we continue please? Hiruzen asked, getting chuckles out of the men and giggles from the women as he turned to the feral woman. The first woman is Sume Inuzuka, head of her clan, Hiruzen said as they looked at her as Sume gave them a feral smirk. I believe young Hana is being groomed to carry the clan forward in years to come, Hiruzen said, getting a nod from Sume before she sighed. Unless my embarrassment of a son proves himself worthy, Sum scoffed, obviously disappointed in her unnamed son. Causing Naruto and Fasha to frown, feeling sorry for the woman. But as it is, my oldest pup Hana is the current heiress, Sum said, smiling, thinking of her daughter's progress. My son Sasuke is the same way. He thinks that just because his father was the fourth Hokage that everyone should bow to him no matter who you are, Makoto said, annoying Naruto and pissing off Fasha even more. Sorry you have such a brat, Makoto-san, Naruto said as Makoto just waved it off. Before everyone including her widened their eyes. How did you know my name? Makoto asks, looking suspiciously at Naruto. Before Hiruzen proceeds to beat his head off a wall, making the two Saiyans laugh, and Naruto answers her question with a smirk. This device on my face is capable of doing more than reading power levels. It can also read me a person's bio, but it won't work fully if a person has their entire face covered, Naruto said as Fasha laughed harder as their mouths gaped like fish. Wait, then what was the point of us introducing ourselves? Choza asked before seeing Fasha's smile. Hiruzen knew about it. Ask him, Fasha said, still grinning, getting everyone to look at the Hokage, who was now sitting back down with a huge lump on his head. I simply forgot that function, Hiruzen said as everyone laughed at him, making him frown more. Oh my lord Hokage, maybe someone else needs to be elected, so you can retire in peace so you don't lose the rest of your mind, Makoto teases, getting a playful glare in return. Very funny, Makoto. I will have you know my mind is as sharp as ever, Hiruzen said, puffing out his chest before everyone including Mebuki, who was now sitting in a vacant seat on the shinobi side, looked at him with a teasing smirk, making him pout. You're all mean to your leader, Hiruzen said, making everyone laugh harder. Before they all got up and left after Hiruzen dismissed them all. Forest of Death Tower. Wow, this is one impressive tower, Fasha said as she looked around with Naruto not too far behind. I know, and look, there is even an arena we can fight in. But I think we better keep our word and not damage it too much, Naruto said, getting a nod from her while they continued looking around. 20 minutes later. Can you believe it? Nothing but rooms here. This tower is big, Naruto said. Until a familiar voice was heard, making them turn around to see Anko grinning at them. It was designed that way for the Chunin exam's second round, Anko said, confusing them. That was the second time they heard that word, the first being from that mummy Danzo. Seeing their confusion, Anko decided to explain to them what the Chunin exam was. The Chunin exam is an exam held once every 2 years to see which genin can advance in rank, Anko said, receiving a nod from them. I'm guessing that it's not a tournament to see which one wins, right? Naruto asked, getting a nod from Anko this time. Correct. To advance to Chunin it can be anyone, not just one person. The catch is you have to impress the people, and they sort of vote for those who make an impression. Then the leader of that person's village, Anko tried to say until Fasha finished for her. Become Chunin, which the others get another chance next time. I'm guessing 6 months until it can be held again, right? Naruto again asked, getting another nod and smile. Again, that is correct. Konoha holds the exams once every 3 years, this year being year 3, meaning it's our turn, Anko finished, making them nod. Okay, let me see if I get this. The Chunin exams are held once every 3 years for your village, 2 times a year. Open to everyone. Then they vote for the ones that make an impression regardless of the winner, Naruto said, getting a nod from Anko once again. Yes, but it's up to that country's lord to decide, Anko causing them to nod. It made sense after all. All villages had to be governed by someone. So the leader of said village doesn't screw things up. But I bet it doesn't always work like that. I mean, surely the one that governs each village is at least corrupt in some way, right? Fasha asked, causing Anko to sadly nod. This is true. I hear that the Cloud Village's country leader is as greedy as they come, Anko said, receiving a frown from the two Saiyans. That's one incompetent leader then, Fasha said bluntly, getting Naruto to agree while Anko laughed. Well, I gotta agree there. Some leaders are thick-headed and just plain stubborn, Anko said, causing the Saiyans to laugh again before she joined in. Night. Soon night had fallen and Naruto was outside looking up at the full moon smiling as he felt himself trying to transform, but kept his body from doing so by rejecting the blood's waves. A trick his mother and father showed him while Fasha was in the kitchen cooking thanks to Anko showing them there was more to the tower than multiple rooms. Naruto-kun, dinner is done, Fasha said coming out of the tower, seeing him stare up at the moon. I still can't believe Minato found a way for us Saiyans to look at a full moon without transforming, Fasha said with a smile. Yeah, neither can I. It was always an impossible feat or so people thought, Naruto said before he started howling. Before the wolves and coyotes of the forest started howling as well, getting them to smile before Naruto got up and headed for dinner followed by Fasha, then went to bed. Naruto and Fasha were headed to the academy for the final time and they had to say that they couldn't be happier. While they were flying though they passed a certain ramen stand and figured they would stop in and grab a quick bite to eat since they could be there at any time they wanted and not be late due to their speed. Ramen stand. Hey Chuki. Ayame-chan, 2 big bowls of the Naruto and Fasha specials, Naruto said before they heard crashing coming from the back making them cringe before they heard hurried footsteps and seconds later a woman with long dark brown hair and big brown eyes was seen. This was Ayame Ichiraku, daughter of Chuki Ichiraku. Naruto-kun, Fasha-chan. Ayame cried out before she leapt over the counter and into their arms before she kissed them each causing her father to laugh. Now Ayame, don't you think we should make their meals first before you get carried away with them? Chuki teased before Ayame pulled back and blushed before getting up and started walking to the back to make them their meals, shaking hers at them as she did, making them grin. I still can't believe this is our last day of the academy, Naruto-kun, Fasha said with a smile making him smile back. I know, but so help me if any of us land on a team with Sasuke or Kiba I am going to do everyone a favor and kill them both, Naruto said darkly with Fasha agreeing with him. Well, look at it this way, Naruto-kun, now we can travel and search for this earth Kakarot is on and hopefully the others will be there too, Fasha said remembering their talk with the Hokage, including their academy instructor. Flashback. Hokage's office. So let me get this straight. You want to join the academy, but you also want permission to leave every so often to find the rest of your kind as well as clean up threats to the universe. Hiruzen asked, wanting to be sure if he heard right, getting a nod from the two Saiyans. That's right, surely you can understand the importance of family, right? Fasha asked, getting a nod from the Hokage. Well, I don't see why not, but how will I be able to contact you if we need help? Hiruzen asked, getting a smile from the two. Well, being the genius my father was as a scientist, I may have something that may help. Provided it survived the crash, if not, well, I can always create a new one, Naruto said with a smile. Naruto-kun, why don't you make a scouter made only for two-way communication? Fasha asked, making him think about it. That just might work, Fasha-chan, and the process is so simple too, Naruto said before pointing a finger behind him and firing a ki blast before another faceless Anbu dropped dead, causing Hiruzen to jump in shock at the sudden ki blast. That mummy just won't quit, Fasha said, starting to get annoyed, causing Hiruzen to chuckle at the description they gave Danzo and Naruto to grin. Well, as long as I can get in touch with you, Hiruzen said as he gave them slips to join the academy before they smiled at him and left through the door. 2 weeks later. Settle down class, let's begin today's lesson, a teacher with brown hair in a ponytail like those of the Nara clan, black eyes, and a scar rubbing across the bridge of his nose said. This was Iruka Yumino, the academy instructor. However, Before he could get to the lesson he was interrupted by the door opening and the two Saiyans walked in handing him a slip of paper while the class looked at them as the girls ogled Naruto and the guys gave lustful looks at Fasha, but Naruto and Fasha paid them no mind. "Okay class, today we are going to be having 2 new students joining us," the teacher said while all the students shouted about how unfair it was to have 2 new students join when they have been here for years. "What, that's not fair, Iruka-sensei, we have been here for years, why do they get a free pass?" A boy with a gray fur hoodie and a small dog on his head asked. This was Kiba Inuzuka, the self-proclaimed alpha of the class. "You don't like it, Kiba. You can take it up with the Hokage now. Sit down and shut up so I can let them introduce themselves," Iruka said with a glare, making Kiba shut up. "Well, would either of you care to introduce yourselves?" Iruka asked with a smile, looking at the 2 who smirked and decided to have some fun before looking at the class and giving them an introduction. "My name is Naruto. My hobbies, likes, and dislikes are none of your business," Naruto said with a straight face, but on the inside he was laughing up a storm as the class fell over at the introduction while Iruka gasped, seeing this was something his friend Kakashi would do. "My name is Fasha, and just like Naruto-kun, my likes, hobbies, and dislikes are also none of your business," Fasha said with a straight face while on the inside she was laughing like Naruto as the class once again fell over while Iruka and his partner's sweat dropped. Okay, take a seat top row if you please," Iruka said with a struggling smile while the 2 Saiyans walked up the steps until Fasha yelped when the same boy who spoke about being unfair that they joined the academy this late slapped her while Naruto, who walked by, unwrapped his tail and bitch slapped the taste out of his mouth, sending him flying out of his seat and right out an open window. "Keep your hands to yourself, Mud, I am the only one that can touch her," Naruto said to the window. The boy flew out of, missing Fasha's furious blush at such possessiveness as the girls gave him praise for what he did to the pervy Mud and the boys gave him jealous looks. Yes, well, once Kiba gets back we can begin class," Iruka said, giving the 2 nervous looks. However, as it turned out, Kiba would not be coming back into class that day. Turns out the fall broke his arm and leg from the landing, while the slap Naruto and the thing around his waist gave him dislocated his jaw. A few weeks later, "Can I help you gentlemen with something?" Naruto said in a bored tone as he was surrounded by 10 blank mashed Anbu. "Lord Danzo is giving you one final chance to join him or die," the emotionless Anbu said, causing Naruto to laugh. "You idiots will never learn, will you? What makes you think 10 of you will make a difference where 5 of you have failed?" Naruto asked but got no response, which made him sigh. "Let's just get this over with. I have places to be and a project to work on," Naruto said as they all ganged up on him as he danced around them like the ants they were until he froze as once managed to get his tail. "Well, looky here, you got my tail, congratulations, you're the first to ever grab it," Naruto said as he made a show by falling to one knee pretending to be weak from having his tail grabbed. "That is correct, young one, and now you're all mine," a voice said as a figure came out of the shadows, revealing it to be Danzo, who grinned at his weak state thanks to one of his pawns being well hidden in the council chambers. "Fu, hold on to his tail tightly while I administer the seal on his tongue," Danzo said as he walked closer before he widened his eyes, seeing him smirk as he smacked the Anbu holding his tail away before attacking the others until only him and Danzo were left standing. "Impossible, you were supposed to be weak from that, my pawns told me so when he was spying in on the meeting," Danzo said, still in shock before Naruto laughed. "Foolish human, did you think I would announce my weakness without having already conquered it?" Naruto inquired, grinning, making Danzo scowl before vanishing. "I don't see why you don't just kill him, Naruto-kun," Fasha said, jumping from the tree she was on after watching the entire thing. He is no match for me or even you, and he knows it, so why kill him when I can settle for humiliating him?" Naruto asked, causing Fasha to smile and laugh. "That's just like you, Naruto-kun, not killing anyone unless they are a true threat," Fasha said with a smile, getting a grin from Naruto before they walked back to the Forest of Death so Fasha could get dinner started and Naruto could finish that project he is working on, not feeling the need to fly everywhere they went. Forest of Death. As soon as they got back to the forest they were confronted by two rare animals. At least to him and Fasha they were rare: a male albino coyote, a female albino wolf, and an even bigger Kurama who surprisingly to them at first had 4 tails instead of just 1. Rama, Ruksha, Kurama, how have you 3 been? Naruto asked with a smile as the 3 loved up to the 2 Saiyans like common house pets. We have been fine, Naruto. We have been watching your hopefully temporary home while you were at the academy, Kurama said, making the 2 Saiyans smile more. That was the one thing that changed ever since Naruto had turned 12. Kurama seemed to go through a growth of sorts. It was like there was a spirit inhabiting his body until the spirit matured enough and started changing his friend. Mini flashback. So you're saying there is nothing wrong with Kurama and that he is going to be okay? Naruto asked a female veterinarian who had a ponytail, soft eyes, and red fang marks under her eyes, telling him she was from Tsume's clan. This was Hana Inuzuka, daughter of Tsume and heiress to the clan. He will be just fine, Naruto-kun. Kurama is a strong fox, he will pull through, but do you mind if I keep him overnight? There is something I wish to confirm. There is something strange about him, the woman said again with a kind smile. Of course, miss, take care of him, Naruto said before leaving until said woman stopped him. My name is Hana Inuzuka, Hana said, making him pause. Ah, so you are the daughter Tsume spoke of when we first met? Naruto asked, getting a smile from her. That is correct, and you and your friend are from another planet, Hana said with a giggle before she found her mouth closed by his hand. I would prefer you don't say anything about that. I rather not have that spreading yet, though I get the suspicious feeling it already has, Naruto said as she giggled more before she playfully licked his hand, making him shiver as he let go. Your secret is safe with me, Naruto-kun, Hana said, getting a small blush from him as he flew away. Mini flashback end. Look on the bright side, Naruto-kun, at least the change wasn't dangerous even if it did turn him into a bit of a pervert, Fasha said as she glared at Kurama who laughed nervously. Mini flashback. Ah, get out, you perverted fox. Fasha screamed out, drawing Naruto's attention as he rushed to the hot spring they found by chance in the forest, where he saw Fasha for the second time but had the decency not to stare before he grabbed the fox and took him away from the spring, letting Fasha bathe in peace. Fasha just stood there after Naruto took the fox away as the day she was born, but if you looked closely you could see a small smile on her face, glad he was such a gentleman, and turned away as soon as he snagged Kurama. Though why'd I wish he had looked at me like this, Fasha thought with a blush now on her cheeks before she went back to bathing. Mini flashback end. Though I am surprised you didn't stare at me, Naruto-kun, Fasha said with a smile. Well, if I am going to see you I want it to mean something, Naruto said, causing Fasha to widen her eyes and then place her hand over her heart with a soft smile before Fasha got in front of him and softly kissed him, shocking him before he placed his hands on her hips. You truly are something, Naruto-kun, Fasha said after she broke the kiss before she got out of his arms and went into the tower to start dinner, all the while shaking her at a still shocked Naruto. Well, that just happened, Naruto said with a smile as he placed his fingers on his lips where Fasha had kissed him before walking to a makeshift bench and sat down before Naruto got to work finishing the blueprints for the project he was working on. Flashback end. So Naruto-kun, do you think you will be finished with it soon? Whatever it is, Fasha asked with a smile, getting Chuki and Ayame, who walked out with 2 bowls each of the Naruto and Fasha special and set them down, then sat down herself and listened. Hopefully, because we still need to head to Earth and see if Kakarot made it in one piece, and hopefully see if the others are there too -1 I hope, Naruto said, confusing Ayame and Chuki, but figured this Kakarot, whoever was just like them, a Saiyan warrior. I hear you Nappa has worked all our nerves for far too long. I honestly hope your cousin kills him, Fasha said with venom in her voice. Nappa will get what is coming to him, and if somehow he survives he will wish he was dead when I get a hold of him, Naruto said darkly, surprising Tsuki and Ayame. Wow, you must seriously hate this Nappa guy, Naruto-kun, Ayame said before Fasha spoke up after she swallowed another bite of her food. Let's just say Naruto-kun here has had a crush on me since he was 6, which I found cute, Fasha said smiling before placing her hand in his. Anyway, the reason Naruto hates our fellow Saiyan is cause he has always been making inappropriate comments at me, which he took great offense to and came to my defense every time despite me not caring what anyone thinks about me, despite always getting beaten up by him, Fasha said with a scowl at the brainless brute. 7 years ago, Naruto, you have got to stop picking fights with Nappa, Fasha said with a frown as she carried a 6-year-old Naruto to the healing tank. Oh, I will once that brainless moron stops making comments and advances at you, Naruto said, making Fasha stop and look down at him before grinning. Ah, does little Naruto have a crush on me? Fasha said with a teasing tone before her eyes widened as Naruto turned his eyes away, blushing and slowly nodded, shocking her more and making her heart warm up, but then frowned, realizing there was a slight problem at the moment. That's cute and sweet, Naruto-kun, but you know I am 6 years older than you, right? Fasha asked before she saw his frown, and not realizing she added the kun suffix after his name. I can't help it, Fasha, I think you're very pretty, Naruto said, causing Fasha to now blush at his bold statement and decide to see if he was truly serious about wanting to court her. Tell you what, Naruto, wait until you are 13, and if you still feel that way about me by then I will be waiting for you, Fasha said before she widened her eyes as Naruto embraced her with a huge smile. You promise? Naruto asked after he broke the hug as Fasha held out her pinky. Pinky promise, Naruto, Fasha said, locking her pinky with his. Flashback end. Ah, that's adorable, Ayame and Tsuki said to the blushing pair as they quickly finished their ramen. Well, Ayame-chan, Tsuki, we gotta get going, they both said at the same time before they paid them, then began to hover and make their way to the academy. Once they arrived, they landed and walked into the building hand in hand before Naruto opened the door and let Fasha enter first, then thanked him with a kiss, making the boys glare at Naruto and the girls glare at Fasha. However, 2 pests got in their way, making them frown, seeing Kiba and Sasuke, who still hadn't learned their lesson after Naruto beat them up for harassing her multiple times. What do you want now, duck butt? Mutt? Naruto asked with a bored tone, knowing what was coming and making the class laugh at the comment about the back of Sasuke's hair. I want you to teach me how to use the power you have, and then teach me your moves so I can use them to kill Izumi. As the son of a Hokage, I command you to teach me, Sasuke said in a smug tone, expecting to get what he wanted because he was the son of a former Hokage. As for me, I want what is mine. I am the alpha. Fasha should be mine, Kiba said with a glare, causing the whole class to frown at the two. I keep telling you idiots when I don't know if I can teach people ki too. Even if I could, I wouldn't teach you, Sasuke, and 3 Fasha-chan here would eat you alive, Kiba, so buzz off, you insignificant pests, Naruto said before he and Fasha started walking to their seats. However, Kiba and Sasuke growled before grabbing his tail and giving it a good squeeze, hoping in some way it would weaken him. Are you two done? Naruto asked in a bored tone as his tail twitched and smacked Kiba and Sasuke into a wall just in time before Iruka and his partner walked in and dunked. Sasuke, stop provoking them, Iruka said with a sigh. However, Sasuke smirked, thinking he could spin this in his favor, knowing his fangirls would agree with him. Little did he know, though, he barely had any left. But Iruka, it wasn't my fault, I was just talking to Fasha-chan when Naruto attacked me, Sasuke said, with Kiba agreeing with him, though glared at Sasuke when he added Chan to Fasha's name. Liar! They heard the class shout as one, well, almost all, as a few stayed quiet, agreeing with Sasuke and glaring at his former fangirls, who all glared back, shocking him, though they held their ears as a certain woman was the loudest. You two attacked him first, shouted the woman with pink hair, green eyes, and the same dress Mebuki Haruno had on but in red. This was Sakura Haruno, daughter of Mebuki Haruno, causing Naruto to look at her and wink, making her blush. Kiba Inuzuka, Sasuke Uchiha, go back to your seats or you fail and will be held back, Iruka said before Kiba nodded and went back to his seat while Sasuke glared and challenged him. You can't do that. I am the son of a Hokage, as such I command you to punish them. Sasuke yelled with a scowl, expecting Naruto to be punished. However, all Iruka did was glare, showing he didn't care either way and would not do as he said. Down, duck, butt, Naruto said before he took his tail and slammed him into the ground, making spider web cracks and making the class laugh more. Okay class, for the final exam there will be 3 parts. A writing portion, a taijutsu portion, and a shuriken and kunai portion, Iruka said as he and his partner Mizuki passed out tests. Writing portion. Soon Naruto started writing down the correct answers after he gave the test a once-over before he glanced over at his mate out of the corner of his eye and saw she was having no trouble writing down the answers either. 5 minutes later, soon Naruto put down his pencil after he finished and folded his paper before looking at Iruka, who nodded his head smiling before he sensed eyes on him before looking behind him and saw the 2 heiresses staring at him with smiles, whom he learned were the daughters of Inoichi and Hiyashi, Hinata Hyuga and Ino Yamanaka. Hinata Hyuga had blue short hair and blank eyes, which he learned from Hiyashi were his clan dojutsu, the Byakugan, and a heavy coat. Flashback. So I have to ask you, Hiyashi, why do you favor your youngest but hate your oldest? Naruto asked with a frown, getting a frown in return. It's not that I hate Hinata, it's just the elders are stuck in their old ways. Believe me, I want nothing more than for her to succeed. I love my children, they mean the world to me. It's just difficult with the elders breathing down my back. I feel like I have no choice but to be hard on her, Hiyashi said with a sad smile, knowing he could do better instead of treating her like she was a failure. I am also afraid of her getting that damn seal, Hiyashi said, afraid of what would happen to Hinata once she got the cursed seal. Cursed seal? Naruto asked before Hiyashi told him about his clan's abomination. One explanation later. Well, what if I offered to help her? You know, so these elders get off your back, would that help? Naruto asked, trying to keep his rage in check as his hair flashed gold for a brief second before returning to red, making Hiyashi's eyes widen, unaware of what almost happened. You would do that for her? Hiyashi asked with a tearful smile while Naruto patted his back. Of course, Hiyashi, and in time I can come up with a counter seal, one that would benefit the entire clan and that they can proudly wear instead of one side living as slaves, provided I can study the seal or have a branch member come see me so I know what I am dealing with, Naruto said with a smile while Hiyashi thought of his dead brother and what happened to him because of said seal. I would be forever grateful to you, and perhaps you might have a chance to study it after a certain exam comes up, Lord Naruto, Hiyashi said with a teasing smile, knowing how much Naruto hated that title. Watch it, old man. I am not too young to kick your ass, Naruto said with a playful glare before the two laughed and went their separate ways. Flashback end. Naruto smiled and altered his voice in a way nobody but her could hear. Your father said I can train you, how does that sound? Naruto asked Hinata, who was about to speak until he stopped her. Just give a nod if you accept. We don't want people to think you're crazy talking to yourself now, Naruto said with a chuckle, making her blush, but nodded anyway. Naruto turned his eye to Ino and just winked as she blushed before turning her head and focusing on her test while Sakura looked at the interaction with a frown. A few minutes later. Okay class, pencils down while Mizuki and I come to collect your tests, Iruka said before he and Mizuki got up to collect their tests. Outside taijutsu portion. Okay everyone, it's time for the taijutsu, so line up everyone, Iruka said as everyone did as told before they began. Okay, next is Fasha and Hinata. Iruka said as she and a nervous Hinata got in the circle, but before Fasha left for the circle, Naruto pulled her to the side and whispered in her ear. Let her have this one, Fasha-chan, she needs a confidence boost, not to mention I agreed to train her and I am sure she would be grateful for your help as well, okay? Naruto asked, getting a nod from her before she proceeded to the circle, but let out a cute squeal when she felt Naruto smack her SS while she looked back at him with a furious blush while he chuckled. Fasha versus Hinata. You may begin, Iruka said as Fasha and a timid Hinata rushed at each other, though for Fasha she held a great deal of her strength back to give Hinata a fighting chance, though if Hinata and Fasha were honest with each other they were having a blast. Then to everyone's surprise including Fasha, Hinata decked her hard in the chin, lifting her in the air and out of the ring, ending in her victory, sadly crashing into Naruto. The winner Hinata Hyuga, Iruka said with shock as Hinata jumped in shocked joy. Yes, I can't believe I beat a Saiyan even if she was greatly holding back on me. Hinata cried out, shocking everyone more that Fasha held back and making Fasha giggle and Naruto chuckle after they stood up as they walked back, though Fasha held her jaw slightly. Naruto vs Sasuke, Duck Butt and Kiba Mutt. Next up is Naruto and Duck Butt, and by Naruto's request the Mutt, Iruka said with a smirk, causing the class to laugh as Sasuke and Kiba glared at Naruto and then Iruka, who didn't seem fazed. Get in here, loser. It's time I teach you your place and show you that you're no match for a Hokage's son, then Fasha-chan will be all mine, Sasuke said with a smirk, pissing off Kiba. No way, Sasuke. Fasha-chan is mine, I'm the alpha around here, Kiba said with a scowl as Sasuke glared at him while the girls glared at Kiba. Shut up and fight already. I have better things to do than listen to you two idiots. Fasha is mine, get over it, Naruto said with a smirk before the two rushed him, throwing punches and kicks at him as Naruto just stood there unaffected by the assault. As soon as the assault was over, Naruto just stood in the same place he was before, looking bored. Was that it? I didn't feel a thing, Naruto said boredly, making them seethe before Sasuke went through hand signs. Fire style fireball jutsu, Sasuke called out as he launched a fireball at Naruto, who just stood there while everyone shouted at him to move, including Ino, Hinata, and for some reason Sakura. Naruto just smirked before he unwrapped his tail and gently tapped the fireball, sending it back at Sasuke, who jumped out of the way then looked at him with wide eyes. Is that all? Tell you what, I'll give you a handicap. I'll only use my tail to fight you, Naruto said, smirking before he rushed them, doing what he said and used his tail to clobber them before smacking them out of the ring with his tail, leaving red prints on their faces. The winner is Naruto, Iruka said as everyone cheered for him before he looked at the down idiots. I told you two morons you will never reach the same level as me, Naruto said with a smirk, turning around and left before Sasuke in a rage charged Naruto with a kunai, shocking everyone again, and was getting ready to shout at Naruto to move until he quickly spin kicked the arm with the kunai, breaking Sasuke's arm, making him cry out in pain. What part of you will never be at my level do you not understand, Duck Butt? Naruto asked with a sneer, tired of repeating himself before he went back to Fasha's side and smirked at her, getting a smirk back. Hokage's office. Well, that just happened, Hiruzen said, watching everything from his crystal ball, causing everyone to laugh at Naruto literally toying with Sasuke and Kiba. Lord Hokage questioned why did Naruto and Fasha want to join the academy anyway. They obviously don't need it being as strong as they are, so I have to ask what was their reason? Asked a black-haired ruby-eyed woman with a bandaged dress. This was Kurenai Yuhi, Genjutsu specialist. Good question, Kurenai, and one I didn't bother to ask, Hiruzen said, getting looks from everyone in the room. Well, whatever the reason, they could use some teamwork, which is why I recommend having those two along with Sasuke Uchiha on my team, a scarecrow-looking man said while everyone looked at him like he was stupid. Are you crazy, Kakashi? With the ego Sasuke has with his late father being Hokage Naruto, and Fasha will likely kill him, a chain-smoking person said. He had black hair and a beard and was never seen without a cigarette in his mouth. This was Asuma Sarutobi, son of Hiruzen Sarutobi. Now Asuma, you underestimate Naruto and Fasha. I am sure with a little training I am positive I can have them working as a unit in no time, Kakashi said with an eye smile before he returned to the book he was reading, pissing off Kurenai. What Asuma says is true, Kakashi, which is why you will be getting Sasuke Uchiha, Sakura Haruno, and Sai as your teammates, and I expect you to train them, not just focus on Sasuke. I don't care what the brat says, Hiruzen said, causing everyone to laugh. Asuma, you will be training the next Inoshika Cho trio, Hiruzen said, getting a nod from him before he turned to Kurenai. Kurenai, you will have Hinata Hyuga, Shino Aburame, and Kiba Inuzuka, Hiruzen said, getting a nod from Kurenai, though unhappy she got stuck with Tsune's brat who thinks every woman should throw themselves at him. So what about Naruto and Fasha, Pops? Asuma asked his father, who was about to answer before they looked at the crystal ball and could swear they saw Naruto and Fasha staring at them all. It's almost like they can see us, Asuma said in amusement before he widened his eyes when he saw Fasha and Naruto smirk at them and give them a peace sign. They can see us, Kurenai said with a shocked look on her face, though blushed a little when she saw Naruto wink, getting a chuckle out of everyone minus Kakashi, who was too busy reading his book. Although I must say, Kakashi, good luck training duck butt with a broken arm, Asuma said with a chuckle, using the nickname Naruto and Fasha gave him, getting a laugh from his father and another giggle from Kurenai before they went back to watching the genin hopefuls, or in Kurenai's case watching Naruto and Fasha discreetly licking her lips, completely forgetting their question about the two. Classroom. Kiba Inuzuka. Sasuke Uchiha, you will not do that again or I will drop you from the academy and you will have to wait until next year, Iruka said with a scowl, not at all pleased with what they pulled Sasuke more than Kiba, causing them to glare at him, not that he cared. Kunai and Shuriken portion. Soon the class was at the target section where they were called up one by one. The clan heirs and heiresses got a 5 and above except for Sasuke, who with only one arm barely passed with a 6 out of 10, while the civilians got a 5 and below. Naruto, you're up, Iruka said with a smile, missing Mizuki's smirk as Naruto stood in front of the targets, noticing these kunai and shuriken were a bit heavier and increasing his strength, making them lighter like they were supposed to be, and tossed them, getting a 10 out of 10, making the class cheer, causing Sasuke, Kiba, and Mizuki see it. Well done, Naruto, and you got bonus points for hitting vital spots too, Iruka said, causing the class to cheer again before looking at the other Saiyan. Fasha, you're next, Iruka said, handing Fasha 5 kunai and shuriken before she turned around and tossed them without looking, and like Naruto got a 10 out of 10 as well. Well done, Fasha, and you get bonus points for hitting vital spots as well, Iruka said, making the class cheer while Fasha walked back smirking. Okay class, now the final part of the test. You must perform the 3 basic jutsu to pass, Iruka said before he and Mizuki went into the other room before they started calling the students one by one. So while they waited for their names to be called, Fasha and Naruto started talking about the different projects he was working on. So Naruto-kun, how is that anti-seal for Anko coming along? Fasha asked while unknown to them Hinata was listening in. It's going surprisingly well. I honestly am surprised at how easy that seal was to crack. I estimate that by the end of the week, the cursed seal Anko wears will be a thing of the past and she can use it too without any setbacks. However, I'm going to need a branch member though, so I can make an anti-small, so the caged bird seal will be a thing of the past and the Hyuga will have a seal they can all be proud of, Naruto said, unknowingly making Hinata gasp and cry. So most likely before our first real mission? Fasha asked, getting a nod from Naruto before they saw Hinata in front of them. Can I help you, Hinata? Naruto asked before his and Fasha's eyes got big when Hinata launched herself at him before wrapping her arms around him, crying into his chest, saying thank you over and over again before the two smiled and Naruto returned the hug, unknowingly making Sakura jealous but also smiled as whatever was said must have made Hinata happy. Fasha, Iruka said before she got up and walked to the other room and wiggled her SS, making him smirk before Naruto, and the class widened their eyes as Hinata took a seat in his lap and made Kiba jealous, not that anyone cared. So secret projects, huh? Hinata asked with a smile before Naruto shook his head at her with a smile. Now Hinata-chan, no spoilers, that would be cheating, Naruto said, shaking his finger before Hinata playfully nipped at it, making him smirk, taking his finger away, though she did blush when he put Chan after her name before Fasha came back with her headband around her arm. Sakura Haruno, Iruka called out before she got up and headed to the next room, but if you looked close enough you could see a small sway in her hips, causing Naruto and Fasha to lift their eyebrows. What about the big project? Fasha asked, making Naruto sigh and frown. Sadly, I don't know. I could always take the blueprints with me and start construction of it on Earth if need be, Naruto said, confusing Hinata, but figured she would know when it was finished before they saw Sakura come out with her headband on her head. Way to go, Sakura, Naruto said with a smile, making her smile and flush at the praise until Sasuke spoke up with a scoff. Oh please, we all knew she would pass. The only thing she possesses is book smarts, Sasuke smirked, making Sakura frown until Fasha spoke up with a glare. You know, Sasuke, that's pretty tough talk coming from someone who just had his arm broken and just barely passed because of it, Fasha said, causing everyone to laugh at him, including Hinata and Sakura, pissing him off as he tried to attack her. However, Naruto stood up, moving Hinata off his lap, and easily caught the punch before it passed him and squeezed, causing Sasuke to cry out in pain before he was kicked into a wall. How many times do I have to tell you, weakling? You will never be a match against us, Naruto said before he held out his hand in AC and fired energy cuffs, binding his hands and feet to the wall. Hinata Hyuga, Iruka called out before Hinata got up and left the room, shaking her as, getting the two Saiyans to smile. Looks like your little stunt worked, Fasha-chan, despite knowing you purposely held back and let her win, giving her a huge confidence boost to be more confident in herself, Naruto said with a smile. So once you complete the project, what are you going to call it? Fasha asked Naruto, who thought about it before he smirked. How about the Saiyan conversion machine? Naruto asked, causing Fasha's eyes to widen. Are you saying you are going to make more Saiyans? Fasha asked, confusing the class on what she meant before Naruto nodded. It's only going to be a prototype though. Once I know it works, then I will build the real one, Naruto said before Kiba arrogantly spoke up. I'll be more than happy to test this prototype so that way I can further show Fasha-chan how awesome I am, Kiba said, making everyone laugh at him, even Sasuke, who was still pinned to the wall, making Naruto and Fasha scoff. Oh please, Mutt, you are far from worthy of becoming one of us. In fact, you and Duck Butt are the last people we would grant that power to, Naruto said, making him growl before Hinata came out sporting her headband around her neck. Naruto, Iruka called out as Naruto got up and made his way into the other room. Test room. Okay, Naruto, transform, Iruka said as Naruto used his ki to turn into Iruka, which he marked down, smiling. Good. Okay, now substitution, Iruka said before being substituted with Kiba, who was surprised before he vanished and Naruto reappeared before they all heard a painful cry before Naruto and Iruka chuckled, making Mizuki frown more. Okay, now clone, he said before Naruto used his ki again and made several copies of himself, shocking him and Mizuki, who seethed more. Well done, Naruto, you passed, Iruka said, handing him his headband, which like Fasha he tied to his arm and walked out. Classroom. Soon Naruto came out proudly, showing his headband on his arm and smirking before looking at Kiba and Sasuke. Looks like I passed Duck Butt and Mutt, Naruto said before he snapped his fingers as the energy that bound Sasuke vanished before he dropped to the floor just as he was called. You're too nice, Naruto-kun, Fasha said, smirking, making him shrug and then smirk before he sat back down before Fasha leaned her head on his shoulder. Then a few seconds later Sasuke came back in with a smug look on his face. "Ino Yamanaka," Iruka called before Ino got up and walked by before shaking her rear Naruto's way, making him chuckle. "Is it just me or do these girls really want me?" Naruto asked with a laugh, making her giggle. "Maybe you should give what we talked about a chance," Fasha said with a smile, making him groan, causing Hinata and Sakura to look on in confusion, so he explained. "Fasha wants me to have a harem to repopulate our race," Naruto said, making them blush and causing Sasuke and Kiba to seethe, but then Sasuke smirked as if he knew something they didn't. "Well then it's a good thing he isn't accepting then, cause the council won't accept his kind," Sasuke said, smirking as if he had won, but frowned seeing Naruto's smirk. "Really?" Naruto asked with a smirk. "Then it's a good thing Hiruzen pretty much disbanded the civilian council since the second Hokage created the council for wartime use, and guess what, duck butt? It's not wartime," Naruto said with a nasty grin, horrifying Sasuke. "Oh, one other thing, this is our race, mine and Fasha's. The council has no control over us," Naruto said with a vicious smirk, pissing him off. Soon Ino came back in, sporting her headband around her waist like a belt before she smiled at Naruto and Fasha, blowing them a kiss, making Fasha giggle and Naruto chuckle. "Wow, looks like she has it out for you bad Fasha-chan," Naruto said, making her giggle again. "Well, I do swing both ways after all," Fasha announced, causing Hinata, Sakura, and Ino to have a nosebleed, making him chuckle more and just shake his head just as Iruka and Mizuki came out of the room. "Well, Class 1, I'm proud to say you passed and wish you luck in your future. As for those that didn't pass, better luck next time," Iruka said before pulling out a list for the teams. Team 7 will be Sakura Haruno, Sai, and Sasuke Uchiha. Your teacher will be Kakashi Hatake, Iruka said while Sakura heard but groaned hearing Sasuke's name. Team 8 will be Hinata Hyuga, Shino Aburame, and Kiba Inuzuka. Your teacher will be Kurenai Yuhi, Iruka said while Kiba walked in joy thinking about the babes on his team. Team 10 will be Ino Yamanaka, Choji Akamichi, and Shikamaru Nara. Your teacher will be Asuma Sarutobi, Iruka said before Naruto fell out of his seat laughing. "What's so funny, Naruto-kun?" Ino asked, wondering why he was laughing at her new team. "Oh, it's nothing. I just wish you could have ended up on a good team as well as Sakura," Naruto said, trying to get his laughter under control, confusing them more. "The reason I'm laughing is cause I honestly feel sorry for you two. First, your team Sakura will most likely fail, no offense. I mean, you have the emo duck butt that makes people wanna kill themselves and is so arrogant he believes people should bow to him because of who his father was. Add on to the fact, I bet you anything this Kakashi I heard about will most likely waste your valuable time by being so tardy. I'm surprised anyone lives under his leadership. He is so lazy, it's embarrassing. How he became a ninja is beyond me," Naruto said while Team 7 narrowed their eyes for different reasons. Although with his books no longer in stock he might be more competent, Naruto thought with an evil smile, remembering what he had done to a particular series. Flashback. "You want to what now?" the owner of the bookstore asked in shock. "I said I want to buy all of these copies. I am a huge fan and I keep having mine stolen," Naruto said with a hidden smirk lying through his teeth. "By all means take them all. They are all yours," the owner said as Naruto paid the man and walked out with all copies of the Makeout series, whereupon being out of sight he tossed the books in the trash and burned all of them with a look of hatred and disgust. Flashback end. "Oh, how I wish I could have seen the horrified look on his face," Naruto thought with an evil laugh before turning to Ino. "As for your team Ino, I honestly don't think you should put your trust in a Nara," Naruto said as said Nara just opened his eyes and glared at Naruto as everyone laughed. "Oh, and why do you say that?" Ino asked, trying not to laugh. "The men of the clan are mostly useless unless it's wartime or their wives are getting on their cases," Naruto said while everyone laughed. Even Choji chuckled a bit as he couldn't deny that about his friend. Troublesome redhead, was all Shikamaru said before he fell backward as Naruto launched a ki blast in front of his face, causing people to laugh harder. You know, real men at least try to pay attention. I don't care how smart you are, Naruto said with a glare, with a manifestation of an Uzaru behind him, scaring him shitless and causing everyone to laugh at his expense. Anyway, Fasha and myself have to see the old man about our sensei, Naruto said while Naruto and Fasha headed for the door before he stopped in front of Sakura, who looked at him. If you want a shot with me, then start training. I am sure you will see great improvement, and if you are worried about your weight, don't be. Training burns that right off, Naruto said with a smile, causing her to smile back. Oh, and one more thing. Consider either cutting your hair or putting it in a ponytail. It gets in the way and is an easy target, he said before they took flight and left for the Hokage's office, getting Sakura to think over what he said while smiling more. Hokage's office. Knock knock, Naruto said, opening the door before chuckling at his own joke, causing everyone to laugh before he pointed his finger a few inches beside Kakashi's head and fired a ki blast, killing yet another blank masked Anbu, making Fasha sigh in frustration and the others to have wide eyes. How many Anbu is Danzo willing to risk, old man? Naruto asked him, questioning Danzo's sanity, causing everyone in the room to laugh except Kakashi, who was too busy reading his trash. I don't know, and I disbanded Root years ago, Hiruzen said, frowning before Naruto looked at the book in Kakashi's hand and smirked. Hope you enjoy that book because it's the last one, Naruto said, making him widen his eyes and then glare. You were responsible for buying all of them. What, are you a super fan or something? Kakashi asked with an eye smile, getting a repulsed look from Naruto. Oh please Scarecrow, I didn't buy them to read them, Naruto said, then took great pride at the look of Kakashi's face at his next words. I bought them to destroy them, Naruto said, getting a very horrified look from Kakashi and a very pleased smile from Kurenai. But why, they are gold, Kakashi said, defending his precious until they felt the whole room shake. They are trash, you sorry excuse for a ninja, Naruto shouted before firing a ki blast and destroying the book in his hands, much to his horror, before he was pinned to a wall by his neck. Now here is what you are going to do. You are going to go into that room, pick up your students, start testing them, and then train them. Or else I am going to make you regret the very day you were ever born. Do I make myself clear? Naruto asked, making Kakashi nod his head rapidly before Naruto dropped him and he ran out of the room to pick up his students,